Daniel Sports Central, we go over a college football game preview and prediction on a big matchup coming up here in the SEC in Week 10 of this 2022 college football season. And it's compared to the Alabama Crimson Tide and the LSU Tigers. Huge match for both these teams coming up here in Week 10. Both teams are very much in contention for the SEC West. Should make for a good one. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this match here today, starting with your team trends. Alabama beat Mississippi State a couple of weeks ago. 30-6 was the final score there. Both teams are coming off of bye weeks coming into this matchup, something to keep in mind there. But Alabama took care of Mississippi State in that matchup. Mississippi State is a team that rose really quickly at the beginning of October, and it looked like they were going to be a really good team. They've taken a couple of losses, and they currently sit with a 5-3 record. That's still a good Mississippi State team that Alabama played there, and they took care of them no problem, 30-6. They're 7-1 on the season, ranked 6th in the AP poll right now, and obviously their one loss of the season came to Tennessee back on October 15th. And as for LSU, they beat Ole Miss 45-20, the 7th-ranked team in the nation at the time. So LSU took down a good opponent there in Ole Miss and did it considerably as well. And LSU is very much a dark horse contender right now in the SEC. The SEC West is actually a fairly open division. You might say that Alabama is the clear and obvious favorite to win the division, which you'd have an argument there. But Ole Miss and LSU are also 4-1 in conference right now. So it's a three-way tie pretty much at the top of the standings with LSU currently having an advantage over Ole Miss. But this is obviously a huge game for both these teams. LSU wins this game. They're in control of the SEC West, and that's definitely something that I'm sure many didn't expect. That's for sure, for Alabama to be an underdog settling in the division. But obviously this is a matchup where Alabama is favored by a decent amount. LSU, they once again beat Ole Miss. They're 6-2 on the season. Both teams are already bowl eligible heading into this matchup. Game's be on Saturday, November 5th in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So LSU is the home team for this one, and it is in a night game. 7 p.m. Eastern is the kickoff. So, and we know LSU is a dangerous place to play, especially when it's in a nighttime environment. That is something to keep in mind in this matchup. That will be a factor here. Spread's going Alabama by 13, so the Crimson Tide are favored by about 2 touchdowns for this matchup. Over-under's 58, and the FPI is going Alabama as well, 76.4%. Series history, Alabama leads at 55-26. They've won the past 2 matchups and 9 out of the past 10. So they've had obviously a successful history against LSU, especially in recent memory. LSU's one win against Alabama, or their most recent, came in 2019 when LSU eventually went on to win the national title that season. Stat comparison for this one: Alabama's 3rd in points per game this year, 6th in points allowed. They're 34th in passers a game, 17th in rush yards. And then for yards allowed, they're 26th in passing, 7th in rushing. So across the board, Alabama is an outstanding team. And in the passing game, they're 34th in the nation, which may surprise you considering they got Bryce Young. But this team, it's more than just Bryce Young. This team is extremely talented all around. And defensively, they're pretty good in the rush defense, but they're also very good in the passing. And as for LSU, they're 41st in points per game, 26th in points allowed. They're 47th in passers a game, 42nd in rush yards. And then for yards allowed, 48th in passing, 44th in rushing. So this is a team that's in the 40s in almost every category except for points allowed. This team is allowing 21 points a game, which is 26th in the nation. A pretty good stat there. And if you compare that with Alabama, they are scoring 43 points a game and allowing 16. So, Alabama statistically is just a better version of LSU. Your recent matchups: Alabama beat Mississippi State 30-6, lost to Tennessee, obviously 49-52. And Tennessee is turning out to be just a really good football team. And you've probably heard this already 1,000 times, but it really makes sense. Tennessee is looking a lot like the LSU team that we saw back in 2019 with Joe Burrow. And who knows? Tennessee might not even make it to the college football playoff at the end of the day, but that team is very much on track to make an appearance at least. And the Crimson Tide beat Texas A&M 24-20, close game there, but they got the win. Beat Arkansas 49-26, and also beat Vanderbilt 55-3. And as for LSU, they beat Ole Miss 45-20, beat Florida 45-35. They lost to Tennessee 13-40. That's another one of those Tennessee games, and LSU got beat up in that game, and the Tigers were at home. And that's kind of the one game where this team just hasn't looked good in the past, you could say, 4 weeks. That Auburn game was pretty close, but the past couple of games for LSU, they've really looked good. Obviously, with the win over Florida, they did allow 35 in that game, but they still got the win there by 10. And and then you got that huge win over Ole Miss by 25. Your key points for this one: Alabama 7-1. They averaged 43 points a game on offense. Obviously got an outstanding offense here with Bryce Young, and obviously got Gibbs, who's the top running back on this team with nearly 700 yards on the season. It's more than just those two as well, and obviously defensively they've been great as well. And they remain as one of the most dominant teams. They're 7-1, and this team is not in much conversation right now, with obviously Tennessee on the rise, and you still got the two Big Ten teams, Ohio State and Michigan, towards the top. And obviously Clemson's still undefeated, and don't forget about Georgia. But, I mean, yeah, Alabama, they're not receiving too much attention. They obviously lost to Tennessee in recent memory, but I still think Crimson Tide are very much a team to keep an eye on. This team is still a big contender nationally. It's just, I mean, obviously Tennessee is receiving the spotlight right now, but we'll see how the outcome goes between Georgia and Tennessee this upcoming weekend. That's obviously the game of the year to this point. And then LSU, Jaden Daniels, he's quietly having a great season. He is the lead rusher for this team with 500 yards of rushing and 9 touchdowns. And his passing stats are overall great. 1,800 yards, 12 touchdowns, 1 pick. He is turning out to be an outstanding quarterback. And we knew Jaden Daniels when he was at Arizona State. He had plenty of talent. He just hadn't reached his full potential when he transferred out of Arizona State. And we're starting to see his ceiling. We're starting to see the real potential that he has with LSU, and that's a great thing to see. I mean, if you look back to Jaden Daniels' first season, he showed that at Arizona State. But, I mean, the next year or so, he just didn't really reach that point again. And with LSU, we're starting to see that quarterback that we knew can be really good. So he's obviously a guy to keep an eye on. He is a dangerous player. But LSU, they got a chance to take control of the SEC West. This is a huge opportunity for the Tigers here to really jump into the spotlight. I mean, you get a win here, you're 7-2, you're in the top 10, you're in control of the SEC West with wins over Ole Miss and Alabama. I mean, this is a huge opportunity for LSU here to really surprise a lot of people, and they could, I mean, for all we know, LSU can make it to the SEC championship game. I mean, if they can beat Alabama here, which it's obviously an uphill battle, but I mean, they've got a chance to do a massive thing here if they can get the win. And they got the home field advantage. It's a night game, and obviously a huge opportunity. So, I mean, I think everything is on the table, especially considering how unpredictable this college football season has been. But that said, let's get to the prediction here for Alabama and LSU coming up here in Week 10. And I'm going to go with the favorite here. 31-23 is my predicted final score. I mean, LSU, I feel like that would just be insane if they got the win here. That would really flip the SEC upside down. But, I mean, I just don't see it happening in the end. I think Alabama is, especially after taking a loss on the road to Tennessee, they've got their loss out of the way in the season. I'd be stunned if they took another one in the regular season at this point. I mean, this team, we've seen it the past few years. After they take a loss in the regular season, they usually play really well afterward. And obviously they beat Mississippi State, controlled them 30-6. And this is the game after that. So I feel like Alabama's going to be very prepared. And they've had plenty of success against LSU, winning 9 out of the past 10. I'm going to go with the Crimson Tide to get the winner, 31-23. But I do have LSU covering the spread. I do think the Tigers keep this game close with it being in their environment, in a home game. I mean, this place is, they're going to be loud. And it's a night game in Death Valley. It's going to be a tough environment for Alabama. But I think in the end, Alabama gets the win here, 31-23. But LSU covers the spread. Over-under's 58. I'll take the under for this one. That's it. That's going to wrap it up for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this matchup, and I appreciate you guys watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.